The owners of the Ricoh Arena have finally said enough is enough in the row with the Sky Blues over unpaid rent. They've gone back to court and asked formally for the club to be put into administration. This morning we're still waiting for the club to respond. We've asked to speak to Chief Executive Tim Fisher on the show, and we've been told that he's been in talks with his lawyers and he's not available to talk to us at the moment. And there's nothing on the club's website either, and still no official statement from them. But let's talk to an ACL board member. Peter Knatchbull-Hugessen joins us on the show this morning. Peter, thanks for your time.
Good morning, Shane.
Why now? What's driven you to this action?
For 12 months we've been talking with the club and their owners, and we've heard all sorts of things, a lot of it contradictory. But the Guardian article last week, and then conversation that fellow director and I had with Mark Labovich just before the Colchester game, when he repeated that they were going to put the club into liquidation, really is a tipping point. If it went into liquidation, then with luck it would start again in the Evo-Stick Northern, dropping right the way through the Blue Square Premier, and we can't allow that to happen.
Do you think it's going to be any better a situation though now? Because I mean, we've been investigating this in the previous hour of the show, and there is some concern that, I mean, certainly it's difficult to know whether you're going to get the 1.3 million back for a start. I mean, are you hopeful that you're going to get that money or see that again?
As directors, we have a duty to try to get that money back. I think that we need to be looking forward. We need to be looking to the future. The past has been a very sorry tale, and we need to be looking to the future. The council, our partners in ACL, need a new partner who will invest in a football club, invest in the area around the Ricoh, and continue the build that we started. That's where we need to be looking, and there's no evidence at all that is coming from Sisu. They're not paying us, they're not doing any development, they're not doing anything. They haven't got wages under control, they're still paying more out in wages than they have in income. Something has to change.
We were talking to Professor Chris Brady earlier, who's an expert in football finances, and I've listened to this. He was saying that it might not be that easy to find a buyer.
I mean, I know that ACL have offered to reduce the rent from, I think it's from 1.3 to about 400,000.
That's right.
And that may tempt in a buyer. May say, but I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole.
What he was saying, Peter, the reason that he wouldn't touch it with a barge pole was that issue of not owning the ground for a new buyer could be a sticking point, and he's still going to be a problem. Do you accept that?
Absolutely, and that is why we were in talks with Sisu way back in the spring and early summer of last year for them to acquire our shares, so they had a stake in the ownership of the Ricoh, and therefore become owners of part of the arena, and eventually, if they worked it up, they would perhaps be able to buy it out from the council. But that is where the future is, and certainly we are, as we have been. We will treat all third-party approaches to purchase our shares, on a case-by-case basis, and hope that enables someone to make the offer that will be needed to buy the club.
In effect, I mean, you're kind of, because we've talked about arbitration, about trying to get both sides around the table, and I know you feel that you did a deal and that was gone back on, and in a way, I suppose this is a form of severe arbitration, because the administrators will make the decisions now, won't they? If that happens, if it's approved, it'll be the administrators. But there's no guarantee they'll make the decisions that are good for you as well, are there?
I think, well, they will, because they'll be looking to get a good business. They'll be looking to make the Sky Blues a sensible business. And one of the things that makes it a sensible business, as everybody knows, is that they have access to the revenues. The problem is that it's the way you go about it. Now, if you just remember what Bob Ainsworth said, he said Sisu's not entitled to bully its way into control of an asset that it didn't provide, build or pay for. they see as the outcome of arbitration. Well, that's just not real, I'm afraid. And that is why these owners, opaque and murky and multi-layered, as Bob called them, that's why we need to start again with someone who's prepared to pay their way, prepared to invest in Coventry, and not just take money out in management charges and build up debt in the club, but to actually invest in the club, invest in the city, and become a responsible part of the whole of the fabric of the city. That's what we've lacked for some time.
There is nothing to stop Sisu, though, reforming, maybe starting a new company and rebidding for the club and starting again with a clean sheet, is there?
Absolutely, but then but that will leave them without the one key thing which you've already alluded to, which is part ownership of the RICO.
And the likelihood that this isn't going to happen, but the only asset that they have are the players.
Yeah.
And if they wanted to, I guess, be really bloody minded about it, they could say, well, we could start selling the players. I mean, do you worry about what you've initiated, what you've started, that is not in your hands to finish?
They can't do much with players. I mean, I don't know the technicalities of embargo, but March 22nd sees us in court, and if administration is then granted, it'll be the administrator who takes over the management of the club.
Well, as a final point, what would you say to fans that are listening? Because, I mean, do you know, I got a tweet, yes, Twitter was going mad because we had, obviously, the statement from you guys that we put up at about 7:15 yesterday, and Twitter went berserk, and one fan, it just really struck me, and I thought I must mention this if I speak to somebody tomorrow. One fan said, this is a whole lot of other business stuff I've got to get my head round now. Can't we just watch football? And I just wonder, the fans that are listening to this show this morning, what would your message to them be?
How much I agree with them. It is always, unfortunately, this has always been about more than football. I don't think that CC came in to run a football club. I think they came in to take control of the RICO Arena. They didn't come in to take control by investing and doing it in the normal way. They came in to take control by bullying and by being a bruiser. It's what they do. It's what they're used to doing. That is how they run their business. They go in, distress people, take them over, make them weak. They're like the hyenas around a pack of antelope.
Although, their actions aren't illegal, are they? I mean, this, they would say, if they were here, and they're not here, but they would say, presumably, hey, this is business. This is what it is what we do.
Yes, and I'm afraid that's why we're going to court, because that is business. If someone doesn't pay, at the end of the day, it ends up in a court.